Aloha everyone and welcome to another Tinker's Academy video. I'm your host Kay Elmer, and in this video I'd like to share with you, this is a tutorial on how to copy frequencies using the Leela quantum blocks. Now, so I want to point out that there are other ways to do that with Leela tools. Primarily you can copy frequency with any of the blocks, but you can also copy frequencies using the spheres that come with a capsule. So I'm only going to be talking about how to use blocks in this video, and if you'd like to learn how to copy frequencies to add them to your super capsule, which they now call the quantum capsule, I have a video that I did make on how to do that specifically with using these spheres. So and I put a link in the video description if you want to learn how to use spheres to copy frequencies specifically for the capsule. But this video is only going to be about using the blocks. Okay, so the idea here about copying frequencies and the very baseline to start off with is to understand that there's three basic types of frequencies. The first one is the etheric frequencies, and what those are is basically frequencies that are derived from manifestation of somebody's intent. And we're talking the somebodies are these incredibly gifted individuals who have like the ability to take their manifested intent, like love or abundance or prosperity. You've seen those on the Leela Quantum Tech site, also on Quantum Upgrade, where you can see all the different frequencies. Well, some of them, which are like, let's say the protection frequency, or the cell and DNA protection frequency. And those types of frequencies, those are essentially a manifested intent that's been copied. It's essentially, anything that comes out of our mind is a frequency, right? So that frequencies of abundance, for example, is actually then captured using a block and then put into a card and then or made available through Quantum Upgrade. And so it's a whole nother subject on how to do that. And I'm basically not at all at that level yet where I'm able to do it. I've been tinkering around with trying to do that, but I'm just not there yet. And it just takes a really enlightened individual to be able to basically pull that intention without adding anything from themselves, so that it's the purest form of that intention, and then be able to put that into an object. So by far, those are the most difficult frequencies to attempt to capture, and then of course copying into devices if you were to do it yourself. So the gifted level of people that can do that, you can look at the Leela Quantum Tech Healer Network, and those are some of the individuals that have been energy workers and clairvoyants and psychics and those kinds of really gifted people that have been doing this stuff for like decades. And they've basically tuned themselves to be able to do that. So it's very difficult. This is not that video on how to create etheric frequencies, but I just wanted to point out that there are frequencies that come from people, that are actually then essentially manifested intent. Now, the ones that, us mere mortals kind of tinker around with are the other ones. And the other second type of frequency is a molecular frequency, which is the frequency of a physical substance. Now, and this is traditional physics. If you go on YouTube and you just type in molecular frequencies, you'll get thousands of pages of all of these physics with all the calculations in which they basically calculate what the frequency of any molecule or atomic, substance might be. And it's all based on math, and the math is basically, the idea that anything that vibrates, which is, atoms all vibrate, and when they all come together into molecules, then all of these different atoms are vibrating at a different, frequency combined into a molecule. Then the molecule then has this sort of harmonic frequency that it produces. And so all of these things, every single physical thing that you can touch and see and smell and look at, have a molecular frequency. So that means all of your supplements, your medicines, essential oils, herbs, things like that are essentially molecular because they're physical substances. Now, those frequencies can be captured, right, and added to any type of object using a block. And so if you're familiar with all of the different boosters that I've created that are available on both sites, either as a card or capsule, like for the men and women's booster, or they're available on the Quantum Upgrade, I think under the Kay Elmer bundle. But the idea, though, is I've compiled all of these different molecular substances together, captured their frequencies, and then put them into a frequency card. And that's what I've done, and they've actually worked quite well. So the idea of a molecular frequency specific to, let's say, a supplement, let's say you take a supplement, like just like I did with the booster, I took a whole bunch of different supplements that were really good for, raising testosterone. And I combined them all, put them into a card, created a booster that's actually been used to increase testosterone because of all of the different supplements. It's sort of like taking the supplements by ingesting, but instead you take it via frequency because you are an energy being, and then you add that frequency to your biofield, and it has the same type of effect, especially when you start looking at things like the seasonal card, which is basically for seasonal allergies, the symptoms of seasonal allergies. I took a bunch of molecular substances that were really good at handling those, and then people have found them to be really helpful just to have that frequency, and it helps them, manage their symptoms, during spring, right, when all the pollen is out. So, so that's the idea of molecular frequencies. Now I'm going to show you how to capture that. That's the easiest thing to do, is capturing molecular frequencies by using physical things, right? Supplements and so forth. And if you have the physical thing, it's really easy to capture, and I'll show you how to do that. Now, the third type of frequency is resonant frequencies. It's the frequency that's emanated as sound, and it's sound within your hearing, and there's also sound that's outside of the ability for the humans to hear. But it's the entire range of audible, acoustic, sound, and those frequencies as well are available either through, you can actually get the sound of a molecular substance. There are different, I'll show you a website where you can, if you don't have this substance, this is where it really comes in handy. If you've seen my how to make a booster video, you'll know that I've spent up to $1,000 on all of the different supplements that went into the men's and the women's booster. Because back in the old days, when I first started this, I was buying all of the different supplements. But I've since learned about a site that actually sells the frequency for a real cheap price subscription, and you can download all of the different frequencies from different molecular substances. So things that are like really hard to get, which typically are substances that are just going to be super expensive or very hard to get. Like, let's say, I've been working on a booster for Third Eye Awakening, and I wanted to capture the frequency of ayahuasca and peyote and some of these things that, open your third eye. Obviously those are substances that are hard to find. And so I just went to this site and grabbed the molecular frequency for ayahuasca, also for peyote, and you name it. And then they have the frequencies, and you can go ahead and grab molecular frequencies as sound, or if you have the physical thing, you can use that, right? But if you don't have the physical thing, you can then get the molecular frequency already, as a sound, and you can use that to copy and put onto a card or your own booster or so forth. Now, there's also another group of frequencies that I call divine. The divine frequencies are some pretty interesting frequencies. They come from ancient knowledge. Some of them come from different religious practices. Others come from just, like ancient wisdom, like the Tibetan singing bowls. They all have different frequencies and are all meant to open up different chakras, things like that. There's divine frequencies called the Solfeggio, and those come from things like Gregorian chants and things like that. So there's some really cool divine frequencies that are available that you can also capture and put into a card, or you can, as if you just want to use your block, if you make a frequency card, then you can put that a frequency in your block and emanate it throughout the field that the block encompasses, or you could make a foil and put it in a capsule and wear it around, or you can put that frequency into anything like jewelry, you name it. So it's kind of cool how you can capture these frequencies, specifically sound, because sound really opens up this entire new kind of like source of frequencies you could use, that you could copy and use with your blocks. Now the other one, the third one is sound healing. Now there are some really interesting people out in the world that are actually quite gifted, and they've made some pretty interesting recordings of frequencies that they've discovered that will help a particular issue that you're having, whether it's trauma or illness or disease or all sorts of different things. And they've discovered the sound, the frequency of the treatment for that, or the cure for that issue. And they've embedded that into music. And so I'll show you some of those as well. And those all fall under the world of what I consider sound healing. And these are people who sell or provide music tracks and soundtracks that are for all the different things you could come up with. And some of them are based on just doing a diagnostics of your own voice and your voice, the frequency of your voice. They have a way to basically diagnose what you sound like, and then from that they can diagnose what would help you. It's real interesting. And then the fourth one is frequency medicine. This is old school. This kind of stems from frequency medicine, different from the other three from the standpoint. It kind of was created a little over 100 years ago. It started out with a guy named Dr. Raymond Rife, who discovered that frequencies could be used to eradicate several different diseases, in which the frequency that he discovered through years and years of experimenting, where he could find that a specific frequency, when played to a pathogen, would cause the pathogen to implode. Just like you would, your typical opera singer and the wine glass, and the opera singer hits that, that specific note and the glass shatters. Well, there's that same thing applies to living organisms. If you can find the right frequency, then you can basically blast some type of pathogens. Every pathogen has its own frequency by which it'll just self-destruct. And so Raymond Rife basically called those things Moors, M-O-R, where he discovered through literally 30, 40 years of experimenting, where he discovered the Moor frequency, which stands for mortal oscillatory rate, which means the frequency he discovered that would eliminate a pathogen. And that just started with him. And so from that, there have been just a whole group of individuals who've taken the concept of using the acoustic frequencies and using that to treat issues. And the issues are just an endless list of things that you could have possibly you're suffering from, and the frequencies that have been discovered and are being experimented with in terms of using those frequencies to treat that issue. So here, as a really simple example, just any one of the different diseases or illness states, you can find a frequency that matches to that. You can capture that frequency, put it in a card, wear it around with you, so that not only are you doing your typical whatever process you go through for health treatment, but then you can also approach it from the frequency standpoint as well. So those are the three types of frequencies out there. So let's talk about how do you capture these frequencies. Now I'm going to leave out etheric because there's etheric means you create it, okay? But the other two you can go out and get, and then you could use those frequencies by copying them onto a card or anything, and then use that frequency with your blocks and with your capsules as stated. So the first one I want to talk about is just molecular frequencies. This is, again, the easiest thing to do. So if you've seen some of the tutorials that Philip and I have created, you'll notice that we do have a time frame for every single type of block. There's a time frame for how long it takes to copy a frequency using that block. And it's pretty standard where the Q block, which is the quantum block, is 30 to 60 seconds for most stuff, except for pharmaceuticals. It's 45 seconds, and then homeopathy, there's no recommend. You can't. The recommendation is you don't try to copy a homeopathy remedy because of the way that it's structured. But everything else, you can actually copy those frequencies and then put them into a card or so forth. Now, the I block, the travel block, and the grand block, it's 10 to 20 seconds, and of course, it's highly recommended you don't use those to try to copy pharmaceuticals or homeopathy. But the blocks, those three blocks are just so strong that you don't want to do that. And we can talk a little bit more about that. I actually think that it's okay to use these blocks to copy a pharmaceutical. And just don't, with the concept of you don't plan to take that pill. Just take one of your pills and use that as a copy source. And then don't take it, because it does. The reason that the recommendation is to not use pharmaceuticals with the stronger blocks is because the stronger blocks will transmute the chemicals in the pharmaceutical, and or it will transmute the homeopathy remedy, and it'll change it from its original purpose, which you may or may not want to do. In other words, you don't want to put that in a block, expose it, and then take it, because once you take it after it's been in a block, it's not the same thing. It's not the same chemical, it's, well, I don't want to get into it, but it's not, it may not have the same effect. Okay. And that's the concept, because it's been transmuted by the energy in the block. But with the quantum block is the lowest strength block, which is perfect for copying frequencies. But again, you can use your other 3 blocks for copying frequencies, no problem. Just follow the guidelines here on the timings. So it's really an easy thing. It's a 4-step process. Basically, step 1 is the first thing you want to do is, now if you want to, let's say other than pharmaceuticals, so supplements, essential oils, plants, and herbs, if you want to copy one of those things, then you really, and you plan on taking it, like you don't want to throw it away when you're done. If you don't want to throw it away when you're done, then what you want to do is step 1 is you want to seal your source. Your source is your frequency source, where what you're copying from, and you want to seal it by charging it in your block. So you want to go ahead and take a look at the charging times, graph, and the links. Everything I'm talking about today will be in the video description. There's a ton of links in there for all this stuff. So you want to make sure that you charge it a full charge. So for example, a quantum block, a full charge is 3 minutes. So you want to just seal it. In other words, you want to basically charge it to full strength. So I would take the supplement, charge it to full strength, so that I don't copy the frequency of the aluminum card onto the supplement that I plan on taking. See what I'm saying? So if you don't, because it goes both ways. Whatever you put in that block, they're going to copy to each other. So unless it's sealed, unless it's already been charged. Once it's been charged, it can't take on the frequency, from inside of a block. So you want to seal it, charge it fully, and then step 2 is then you would place your source, your charged source, right? It's now been sealed, and the target object, which in a lot of cases is just a metal card that you want to put the frequency on, and you want to put that together in the block for the time specified right here in this chart, so 30 to 60 seconds. And then step 3 is you want to remove the source after the allotted time noted above, right? So after 60 seconds, you take out the source, and then you leave the card in there, step 4, to get a full charge. So then you want to seal your target, right, your target object, and you want to seal it by leaving it in the block for a full charge. So then I'll show you what I mean. And so that way you've got a card that ends up having the frequency on it, fully charged and sealed, and it holds the frequency when you're done. Okay, so let me kind of walk you through doing that. Let me go ahead and show you what I just was doing this morning. I'm just taking this Tonkat Ali, which is a supplement for testosterone and hormone, and I basically put it in the block to seal it. So first thing I do is I put the supplement in the Q block. Now this is a Q block. If you were doing this with the other blocks, pay attention to the time frames. And so then I want to put it in there for a full 3 minutes, okay? Then once it's finished, after 3 minutes, then it's sealed, and now I can basically put the frequency. So these are just the charge times right here. So if you're copying frequencies, that's the 30 to 60 seconds as noted above in the other graph. So that's how long I'm going to put it in there, okay? So that's how long I'm going to leave it in there. In other words, I put the source, and then I put the target, right? So now I'm taking the target, which is the card. So I'm copying the frequency of the supplement onto the card. The copy time frame is max 60 seconds. So I'm going to then step 2, right? I'm putting it in there together for 60 seconds. And then once 60 seconds is over, I take the supplement out. And then, of course, because it's sealed, it didn't pick up the frequency of the aluminum card. But then I leave the card in for another 2 full minutes so that the card gets a full 3 minutes. Okay? So that's really it. And that's once those 2 other minutes is done, the card now has been in the block for a full 3 minutes, and now I have a frequency card for Tonkat Ali. So again, I just want to say, you want to seal your source, place them both in there together, right? Leave it in there, leave the source in there for the allotted time, 60 seconds, take the source out, leave the card in for another 2 minutes, and you're done. And that's just basically specific to the quantum block. So that's really how you copy a molecular frequency. And depending on the block, you have different time frames. But mainly, this is just how it goes. It's pretty simple. Now, I do want to point out something about copying frequencies off of Leela cards. Because Leela cards, whether it's molecular or whatever type of frequencies on that card, it's a frequency source. So now, if you've ever been in the chat group on Telegram, you'll know that I talk a lot about just use a piece of foil. And what I mean by using a piece of foil is the way I look at the Leela cards is you paid quite a bit of money for them, and you don't want to mess them up, right? And so no matter what block you're using, you just really don't want to mess them up. So I treat my Leela cards as like a master copy, okay? The day I get it, what I do is I take the frequency, I use a Q block, right? But you could use your other blocks as long as you don't overcharge that card. Okay, you stick to the time frames. That's the key thing. So I take the card and I put it on, and I take the frequency and I put it on a piece of foil. Okay, and then whenever I need to use that frequency, I just use the piece of foil. I keep my cards separate and secure and safe so that they never get overcharged or I don't lose them, or misplace them or whatever. There's been lots of folks that lose these things. But the idea though is I take the frequency off of the card using the steps I just mentioned above. I put it on a frequency foil, and that way I avoid the copy effect. And the copy effect is if you use the card every single time in one of those stronger blocks, it's going to get overcharged over time. And if it gets overcharged over time, the card, then it's going to cause something called the copy effect, and it's going to mess up your other cards if you store them together. Then it becomes kind of a pain in the butt to store all the cards, and when things get overcharged. You want to keep them where they're never overcharged. That's why I don't mess with my cards. You make a copy, and I use the foil. Now, if the foils get overcharged, no big deal. I throw them away and make another one. All right, and that's the key thing. I don't have to hassle with trying to figure out how much time is on each one of my cards. I can just use the foil whenever I want to. If I want to like put it in the block, or put it in a super capsule, and so forth. So now the thing about copying your frequency cards onto another object like jewelry and whatever, you don't have to do step one because it's already been sealed. The cards come from Leela sealed. So basically you would just go straight to step two, place the two things in the block together, remove your source after the allotted time, which would be the piece of foil, and then leave the card or the jewelry or keys or whatever you're charging, and leave it in there for the full charge, and just you can get the full charge off the chart. Okay, so that's how to copy a molecular frequency, also how to take frequencies off of Leela. Now the other one here is about copying resonant frequencies. Now of course you're copying sound. So how do you do that? And it's really quite simple. It's an actual practice that people have wrapped business models around, and this thing's been around for years and years and years. It predates Leela quantum tech because it's the concept called imprinting. And so if you want to imprint a frequency onto water, and this was way before Leela was around, you can basically use all sorts of different ways where you could take a frequency, put it into water, and then people would drink the water to get that frequency, right? And so it's imprinting to water, and that's really what you're doing. You're taking a sound, you're capturing it in water, and then using that water as the source of the frequency, because the water will capture the frequency. And this is science. And so if you've ever taken a look at, there's a book out there called Hidden Messages in Water. It's by I think, Emoto. I'm sorry, I forgot the name of the author, but it's the Emoto Institute in Japan. And they basically did studies back in the 70s, and they're still around, where they basically proved that sound can be captured by water, and they proved that water retains a memory. Because what is water? It's a liquid crystal, and what crystals are used throughout tons and tons of different electronics as capturing information. So you can use water to capture it, and it'll hold the memory of that frequency, and it's all proven with science, okay? So it's called imprinting. So you want to imprint a frequency that you want, and you want to put it onto water and then use water. So step one would be you just want to play the sound to a glass of purified or distilled water for 3 minutes if it's just a tone, or for the full track if let's say it's a full track of music. All right, and that's as long as you need to do it. And then step 2 is you would then use the glass of water as the frequency source and following the molecular copying steps. It's as simple as that. So all the steps I just showed you earlier, instead of the actual supplement, you'd place sound to the water and then use the water as the supplement, right? The key thing though is don't use a metal cup. All right, don't use paper and use a new glass. So this is straight from Philip. Basically, the way that they capture at Leela Quantum Tech is I think they use like Fiji water. It's just some kind of purified water, right? I use distilled water because I just have access to it. And so I just use a glass with distilled water in it. I use a new glass every time, which is the only big pain in the Ecole that you have to deal with is that the glass itself, right, will retain the frequency. And so if you don't want to blend frequencies, then use a new glass each time you do this, and you're good to go. All right, so let me kind of show you what that's all about, and I'll just kind of walk you through that. So this is an example of me capturing the divinity sound from 111 hertz. So the first thing I'm going to do is I set up, I have a, before I get in there, I have a Bose speaker. So one of the things too, and I'm using my phone. My phone's got a Bluetooth connection to my Bose mini sound deck or whatever they're called. And the reason I use this is I got kind of a mediocre cell phone. It's not a fancy iPhone or anything, and I don't trust the speakers on it to carry the tone accurately. So I went and got myself this little mini Bose speaker. It's a Bluetooth speaker so that I know that the sound is pure. If you're familiar with Bose, you'll know that Bose is like literally the Cadillac of speakers and sound. And so that way I know that the sound coming off of my Bose speaker instead of the speakers of my phone is going to be accurate. It's going to be like tuned right into that specific frequency that I want because of the high quality of the sound device I'm using. I just personally don't trust the speakers on my phone. So anyway, so I get my mini Bose speaker, Bluetooth connect to my phone, and I go to this online tone generator, okay? Because I want to copy a very specific frequency of 111, and that's actually a frequency from divinity. It's a healing frequency it's just, I don't want to get into it, but it's a very special frequency for healing. And so then I turn on the frequency. You can hear it there in the background playing to the water, and I just want to play it for 3 minutes because it's just a tone. So I turn the thing on for 3 minutes, and as soon as it's over, I turn off the tone, okay, and I'm done. Boom. As soon as I turn that thing off. Once the 3 minutes is over, I hit stop on the tone generator, which is an online tone generator. And now that little glass of water here, it's a glass of distilled water, and I've never used this before. I've only used it, this is the one time. And now that becomes the source. So that water is now holding the 111 hertz frequency. So I put the card in, and I set it for 3 minutes and let it go ahead and copy over. Now, in this case, the reason I'm going to go for the full 3 minutes right off the bat is I'm not planning to drink the water. See what I'm saying? So I'm not worried that the aluminum's going onto the water. It doesn't matter to me. So I've just basically got the frequency of the water, which is 111 hertz, and I've now copied it onto a card, and I now have a card of 111 hertz. And that's it. That's as easy as it gets. So the key, though, is I just want to say one more time, is use a fresh glass every time, 3 minutes for the tone or the full track if it's going to be a musical piece. And again, use purified or distilled water. Okay? So that's how you capture resonant frequencies. So now the thing about frequencies, and I just want to kind of stipulate a couple things here that I think is important to know, is that frequency medicine is, again, it's using frequencies to treat conditions, okay? And so they come in 3 different flavors, and I want to kind of talk you through how to use those different flavors, right, of frequency, because each one is going to require a little bit of different kind of dinking around. So first of all, you can have, if you're trying to capture a single frequency, like a chakra frequency, or which are the the Tibetan bowl, singing bowl frequencies, or the Solfeggio frequencies for DNA repair or love, right? All these different numbers, they're all very specific single numbers. If you got a single frequency like 111, then it's basically, you can just use a tone generator as you saw in the demonstration. Okay, so there's online tone generators. video description, links to all that stuff in the video description, okay? So you can just play one single tone. Now, sometimes you might need to do a sweep. And so I was working on a frequency booster for plant growth, and I was doing some research, and I found this one that there's a frequency that was studied by scientists, and they've discovered that they could get plants to grow stronger, faster, better using a frequencies sweep. And then what they mean by sweep is they said basically they used frequencies from 3,000 to 5,000 hertz. Okay, so that's 3 to 5 kilohertz. And so now that's not a single number. That's every number from 3,000, 3001, 3002, all the way up to 5,000. So how would you possibly play all of those frequencies at, to a glass of water? Well, there's online generators that are called sweep generators, and you can set the beginning, the beginning and the ending frequency, and then it'll play that whole thing to your little glass of water. So you can actually capture a range of frequencies when you run into that, and that range of frequencies then could be then all captured using a sweep generator. So you could use the sweep generator to play a range. So you can use a tone generator to play a single number, right, a certain frequency, or you can use a sweep generator to play a range. Now, there's also this third flavor called multiple frequencies. So when we look at, I'm going to go ahead and look at where you can, there's a whole list of where you can find frequencies. Now, some frequencies or some ailments, in fact, a lot of ailments and conditions, health conditions, have been discovered that, they require multiple different frequencies, like 5 to 10 or 20 different frequencies, right? And so it's not just one frequency is going to do it. It's just, we're talking about decades and decades and decades of people tinkering around and trying to figure out what works for what. And they discovered that if you play these 7 frequencies, then it'll help XYZ, whatever that problem might be. And so when you have multiple frequencies, this is where it gets complicated. It's not for the average Joe, because the equipment I've been looking, and by the way, if you know of an online tone generator that can play multiple frequencies, please leave comments in the video or in the comments for the video, because I have not been able to find one. So what I do for that, though, because my background is in bioelectrical magnetics, is I've got Rife equipment, and attributed to Dr. Raymond Rife. And Rife equipment are basically actual frequency generators that, within the way that they operate, you can program X number of frequencies. You can actually play all 12, and it's just going to go one after another, boom, 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 and play all of those different frequencies. They're not in a row, so you're not going to be able to sweep them, but you can play 7 or 8 different frequencies in a row using a frequency generator. And so if you're really interested in doing that, then there's a really good, the cheapest one out there that's the most effective is from a company called Spooky2. The cheap generator there is called the XM generator. I've actually got this one under $200 for the whole thing. Software's for free. Then of course there's I have owned this one as well, the GB4000 generator, and you can program up to 8 different frequencies, and you can program sweeps, and you can program single frequencies using actual frequency generators, buying hardware. I'm trying to keep it simple for you guys. Most of you are like myself. Well, I guess not like myself, but most of you are just basically regular people. You're not going to have all this equipment. You're going to have a phone. You're going to have a laptop, or a computer. And with that, you can access tone generators and sweep generators. So the key thing, though, is if you have multiple frequencies, it is a little tricky. And so then what I would recommend is you try to find, the frequency for your ailment. I'll show you where you can find it, so that you don't have to go out and buy the equipment if you don't really, really need to. There is a way to find these things, because Spooky has done the world a great favor by recording a ton of their different frequency sets onto their YouTube page, or you can go there, and I'll show you that in a second, okay? So you can actually grab those types of frequencies right off the Spooky2 YouTube page, if you want to, if they have it. If they don't, you might have to, buy your own generator if you're specifically trying to target something they haven't actually published yet. Otherwise, it is difficult to play multiple frequencies without having an actual generator. And then the other thing too now about frequency medicine is like, what are the output methods for getting the frequency from a generator to a glass of water. And so, like I was showing you in the demonstration just earlier, is through speakers. Now, the speakers are the easiest way to do it, but there are other ways to do that. And I just want to point that out, that there are other ways to do frequency medicine. And so, in other words, you could use speakers. You can use plasma antennas, which comes with these two guys. If you buy Rife equipment, there's you can output the sound, the frequency through plasma antennas. You could output the frequency through a PEMF wand. You could output the frequencies through light wands, and also throughout a scalar field. So if you have a scalar field generator, you can also do it that way. But these last four are not your average Joe, but I just want to point out that there's different ways where you could output a frequency to water. I've actually played around with all of these, but the speakers are the easiest, and that's kind of what I recommend. So again, there's three different types of frequencies, right? Three different, flavors of frequencies when it comes to resonant frequencies. And depending on which type, you're going to need to use a different doodad to play that frequency to water. And I also want to say one more thing, too, about speakers. And this is really important, okay, guys? If you're going to be using speakers to basically transmit a frequency to water, you have there's a warning here that I want to give you, because it's possible you could damage your hearing, if your speakers play tones at extreme volumes. And the problem with that is that you can't hear anything that's under 20 hertz and greater than 10,000 hertz. Okay, so if you can't hear it, but it's still turned on, you can still damage your hearing. So what you want to do is, to be safe, you want to make sure that you first try out your speakers at volume level that is comfortable for you to listen to, right? And set it to 1,000. And if you can hear that tone comfortably without discomfort, then you just leave that volume alone and then play these other volumes that you cannot hear. Because if you play a volume you cannot hear at full blast and you're too close to the speaker, or worse, you're wearing headsets, you could damage your hearing, okay? So be careful about that. And just so, again, make sure, to be safe, set your volume on your speaker to 1,000 hertz, play it where it's comfortable, and then don't touch the volume knob after that for the frequencies you're going to copy. Okay. Now, lastly, where do you find these frequencies? So if you go into the video description below, then you'll find that I've got frequencies for that molecular. That's that site I was talking about. If you don't have the substance, but you want to go ahead and get the frequency, I believe it's like $9.95 a month subscription, and you have full access to their entire database. And they actually are water imprinting devices that they sell as well. So if you just, Infopathy is a pretty cool site where you can just basically, they sell this gizmos where you can take the sound from Infopathy for anything that they sell. They got this giant library of molecular frequencies, and then you could basically put that right into water and drink the water. That's their thing, But my whole thing is I just want access to the frequencies, and I put it into objects and not just water. And then of course there's I have sites listed for divine, and then for sound healing, and also for frequency medicine. So kind of walking you through some of these things. Well, here's basically Infopathy, and you can see all the different, this is their library. And so if I want to put in one, like let's say I want to put in, I don't even know how to spell ayahuasca. So let me just put in something simple like vitamin C. If I don't have any vitamin C on me, or even better, like peptides. Peptides are super expensive. So like here you go, vitamin C, and it's right in their library. You can grab a copy of what that sounds like. And, I'll tell you what, if you're like me and you kind of tinker around with different substances, one of the most expensive substances to get are peptides. And so I just want to show you that they've got tons of peptides. So here's the BPC 157 peptide, and here they've got the molecular frequency for it right there on their site. You don't have to go and buy it. It is expensive, so if you don't, it really is going to save you a lot of money if you're trying to put together something and you want the molecular frequency, but you don't have to pay a lot more than just $10 a month for a subscription. So that's a really good idea for that. Now, in terms of like the Solfeggios, just as an example, this is one example of divine frequencies. But this is a link in the video description. But like it kind of describes what the Solfeggios are, how they came about. Again, their divinity, and then here's the numbers, right? So if you want to do like 396, liberating guilt and fear, understanding, 417, undoing situations and facilitating change, and then of course 528 is the frequency of love. It's for transformation and miracles and so forth. So these types of incredible divinity type of frequencies are available. Here's the number, and you would just use a tone generator, or better yet, you would just go right onto YouTube and find somebody who created a video of that. Now, in terms of frequency medicine, there's different lists of frequencies that are in the video description that I've provided. And so one of them is called the Nogier frequency. It's a Dr. Nogier. I don't know how long ago, but this doctor basically did a lot of experimentation and came up with his 7 frequencies. So he's got frequencies where he discovered the frequency through experimentation of 73 hertz would help and support the endocrine system. He's got a frequency for inflammation, ectodermal tissue healing, endodermal, and then, of course, chronic conditions, general pain, so forth. So, as a real interesting thing, Dr. Nogier discovered that the 4698 hertz frequency helps with pain. And so he's actually, and there's devices out there that play the Nogier frequencies that you can get. But then, here you go. That 5698 hertz is going to be for general pain, where you can put that in a tone generator, play it to water, put it on a card, and now you've got a general pain, relief frequency card. And that's kind of why I do all of this stuff. Another frequency medicine list is called the Consolidated Annotated Frequency List. It's always being updated. And here's where I was talking about, where you've got a condition that requires numerous different numbers. Okay, so let's just say abdominal inflammation, or just, this is a huge one. Here's one for things like, I just saw it, Alzheimer's, right? So you take a look at Alzheimer's, right? And so it's like, okay, you want to combine all of these different frequencies, and this is where it gets tricky. This is the multiple frequencies. So I want to treat Alzheimer's, or, I want to make a frequency and put it in a super capsule, give it to somebody I know that's got Alzheimer's. Well, the trick is you got to capture 430, 620, 624, 840, 866, blah, blah, blah. All these different frequencies would go all into, quote, a Alzheimer's booster, play it to the water, put it on a card, or put it on a piece of foil and then give it to that person, right? But this is where you have multiple frequencies that you were using for frequency medicine, where it gets a little tricky. And this is why I brought that up, because a lot of the, quote, frequency medicine, sets or things like that are, as you can see, that have lots of different frequencies to treat a specific condition. Okay, so that's where you'll find all, a list of just a ton of different things. I mean, pretty much everything you think of, everything from cancer to diabetes, you name it's in this list. Okay, so that's this list, but that falls into that little weird thing where you've got multiples and you may need to get a frequency. But again, I'll show you one more thing. In case you get lucky, let's say you really want to use something that has multiple frequencies in it, but you don't have a frequency generator, then go to the Spooky2 Rife, link in the video description, YouTube page, okay? And what they've done is they've been doing this for years, where they're in between their other videos, like, all this stuff that they do, they've got healing frequency for cluster headaches, healing frequency for chickenpox, healing frequency for goiter, conjunctivitis. They've got one in here for ataxia, whatever that is. They've got frequencies for gout, for edemas, for stomach ulcers. You can see where this is going, right? So they've got different, I don't even know, ortitis, or I don't know what that is. But anyway, so if you go to this website and you just go, hey, I want the frequency for, I'm suffering from, let's see, cancrum, or I'm going to get one that's normal. I got a boil. Here's a go. Breast enhancement. Here you go. I want to do a healing for breast enhancement, and then I would just go ahead and play this frequency. And I've got the volume at full, and so it's one of those frequencies that humans can't hear, but it is playing, and it'll be playing through your speakers. Okay? So that's one way to do it, and that's the easy way to do it is hopefully somebody's recorded it for you, and you just go ahead and grab it. And again, too, it's not just spooky. Other people have gone out there and created frequencies and put them on YouTube. So just make sure you have good speakers, and maybe you can find it on YouTube. If you have one of these things where it's tons of different frequency numbers. But anyway, that's one way to get it. Just in case you don't have a frequency generator. So again, here's the online tone generator. It plays just one at a time. You saw me use this in my demonstration. You would just type in whatever frequency you want. Let's say I want to do the frequency of love, 528. I play, and then it's gonna go ahead and play, and then of course the 3 minutes. And of course, if I want to do a sweep, here's the sweep generator, and then I would say, okay, I want to do 3,000 to start, and I want to end at 5,000. Go ahead and play. I want it to play. I want it to just be 10 seconds each. And then I've got different choices for waves. I just use sine wave as a default. And then I go ahead and play. And that's annoying as hell, but there you go. Okay, and so then that plays the range. It's a sweep generator. So that's kind of how all these tools work. So everything I've mentioned today is all in the video description for ways that you can go ahead and you can, where you can find frequencies for almost anything you can think up. There's either a divinity frequency or a molecular frequency or sound healing or frequency medicine that can help with that situation. And the situation doesn't need to be physical. It could be, all sorts of things like wealth, prosperity, blah, 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 right? I mean, do well in school, all that stuff. But, you could probably find it if you went looking, and here's all the different places where you can go and find frequencies. Then put it in water, then copy it to a card, and that's how you copy frequencies. So there you go. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this little mini tutorial. If you got any questions now, I know there'll always be questions. You can always find me at the Tinkers Academy blog and links below. And also, too, we have a health and healing Telegram chat group where doing this kind of stuff is par for the course. So anyway, if you want to reach me, you can find me here. Otherwise, you can drop in and just ask questions in the Quantum Power Telegram group. We're more than happy to try to help each other out in that group as members of that community. So thank you very much for watching this video. I hope this was helpful. And you know what? If you find this content helpful and you like it and stuff, I'd really appreciate if you like and subscribe to my YouTube channel and all that stuff, right? Like and subscribe. Anyway, hey man, thanks a lot. I hope this was helpful. Have a great day. Aloha.